When assassins cornered Queen Helaena, readers braced for the most devastating horror in modern fantasy. Instead, the screen adaptation strips the infamous sequence of its cruelest choice. It is a bold pivot from George R. R. Martin's Fire and Blood, setting the tone for a season eager to rewrite its own history. We are weighing the exact cost of these narrative shifts to see what survives the translation. The television adaptation did not abandon George R. R. Martin's text entirely. Eric infiltrates the stronghold at Dragonstone and fights Eric right inside Rhaenyra's royal bedchamber. The bloody aftermath of their confrontation remains exactly as it was written. Eric falls on his own sword immediately after killing his twin brother. We also get the brutal border dispute between House Bracken and House Blackwood. A petty squabble over grazing land erupts into the deadly Battle of the Burning Mill. Keeping these brutal ground-level conflicts earns the show some much-needed breathing room. It needs that narrative room for the massive deviations that come next. The television show defangs the infamous and brutal blood-and-cheese assassination sequence. The hired killers are sent after Aemond and kill young Jaehaerys by mistake. Queen Helaena is never forced to choose which of her sons will die. The book features a chilling bargain, requiring a son for a son. That exceptionally cruel moment simply cannot happen in this version of the story. This major structural change softens Daemon's guilt considerably over the botched assassination. It also robs the sequence of its legendary psychological horror and lingering trauma. We lose the grim reality of a mother making an absolutely impossible choice. Queen Alicent Hydar's character arc is inverted wholesale from her literary counterpart. The woman who never wavers from the Greens sails to enemy territory in secret. She offers Rhaenyra the capital and accepts a terrible price for her freedom. She agrees to her own son Aegon's execution just to buy lasting peace. This breaks her written counterpart's fierce dynastic loyalty to her own blood. A desperate mother trades her golden crown for her daughter's ultimate survival. The show transforms a bitter political mastermind into a strangely defeated victim. Daemon spends the entire season acting as a frustrated and volatile quasi-rebel. He storms off after a marital rupture and demands royal titles at Harrenhal. He suffers an extended psychological breakdown orchestrated by the mystic Alice Rivers. He returns to Rhaenyra only after experiencing a terrifying witch-induced weirwood vision. The book's version of Daemon never wavers and holds Harrenhal as a loyal commander. The show creates a massive loyalty conflict completely out of thin air. It forces the rogue prince to confront his own massive ego before submitting. The battle at Rook's Rest is brilliantly transformed into a brazen attempted fratricide. Aemond orders his massive dragon Vhagar to burn his own older brother. King Aegon blunders into the chaotic battle completely drunk and entirely uninvited. This hardens into canon a deliberate kinslaying intent the contested histories never assert. The source material frames the dragon crash as a chaotic and tragic battlefield accident. The screen adaptation turns it into a highly calculated and ruthless assassination attempt. Aemond seizes his perfect chance to clear his path to the Iron Throne. A wholly invented Great Sept summit changes the entire foundation of the war. Rhaenyra infiltrates King's Landing dressed as a Septa to seek a peaceful resolution. She learns the war was sparked by Alicent mishearing Viserys' final dying words. This revelation recasts the Dance of the Dragons as a massive, tragic misunderstanding. It builds the conflict on a magical prophecy that does not exist in the book. The show strips away the calculated political ambitions of both royal factions. It replaces ruthless factional power grabs with a tragic and avoidable communication error. The fascinating character of Nettles is cut from the Red Sowing entirely. The brown-skinned dragon seed who tames Sheepstiller becomes the true heart of Daemon's story. The show deletes her completely to make room for an invented wild dragon subplot. Trueborn Rhaena is positioned to inherit her dragon-riding role in the Vale. This adaptation choice erases a crucial piece of low-born representation from the narrative. The change alters the story's deep exploration of innate Targaryen genetic exceptionalism. The narrative replaces a fascinating outsider with a very conventional royal heir. Prince Maelor is erased from existence to simplify the royal family tree. Queen Helaena has twins instead of 3 children in this version of events. This deletes both the murder scene's forced choice and a crucial royal toddler. Maelor's later death ignites some of the Civil War's absolute worst atrocities. Removing him from the board lowers the stakes for the Green bloodline. It also spares the audience from watching a mother condemn her youngest child. The screen narrative loses a major emotional catalyst for future horrific violence. The Red Sowing is restaged as a single night of horrific mass immolation. Rhaenyra leads the chaotic event herself to secure new riders for her dragons. The idea is credited to Mysaria over Prince Jacaerys' very bitter vocal objections. This staging is a direct and frustrating inversion of the original source text. The Dragonseed scheme is actually Jace's own proudest strategic gambit in the book. The show strips the young prince of his strategic brilliance and political agency. It hands the credit to a spy master and turns the claiming into a slaughter. Mysaria is transplanted from her role as Daemon's shadowy King's Landing spy mistress. She becomes Rhaenyra's captured and trusted confidant on the island of Dragonstone. The two women share highly vulnerable emotional confessions regarding their traumatic pasts. This growing emotional bond transforms the spy master into the queen's trusted lover. The new dynamic is sealed with an invented kiss between the two allies. This romantic relationship has absolutely zero basis in the original historical chronicle. It shifts Mysaria from a shadowy underworld figure to a central emotional pillar. The show settles the Hull brothers' highly contested and debated historical paternity. Corlys Velaryon all but admits Adam and Alan are his own illegitimate bastards. The historical text of Fire and Blood officially calls them Laenor's biological sons. The book lets readers doubt the official story and draw their own conclusions. The television screen removes that fascinating historical ambiguity entirely from the narrative. This grounds Corlys in a very tangible guilt over his past marital indiscretions. It trades a fun historical mystery for some very immediate family melodrama. The Cargyll twins' duel gets a definitive ending the sourced texts never agree on. Eric wins the brutal fight and begs his queen's forgiveness for his actions. He then falls on his own sword, right inside Rhaenyra's royal bedchamber. This replaces the book's duel, where both brothers die slowly of their agonizing wounds. The show chooses immediate Shakespearean tragedy over conflicting and messy historical battlefield reports. It gives Eric a moment of profound psychological horror at his own undeniable kinslaying. Queen Alicent and Criston Cole are given a highly secret sexual affair. They are literally in bed together during young Jaehaerys' horrific royal murder. Alicent later drinks moon tea to hide the physical consequences of their romance. This invents a massive shared guilt engine for both of these conservative characters. The book's pious dowager queen would never recognize this deeply hypocritical behavior. It turns Cole's righteous fury into a massive display of hypocritical psychological projection. Their hidden romance directly enables the absolute worst tragedy of the entire season. Alicent bids for the Regency and suffers a humiliating defeat in favor of Aemond. This council meeting is a completely invented rejection scene created for the screen. The book's council simply chooses the prince without a public gendered power struggle. The show uses this moment to strip Alicent of her remaining political armor completely. She realizes the patriarchal system she championed has discarded her perceived value. It pushes her directly toward her desperate and treasonous peace mission to Dragonstone. Queen Helaena is upgraded into a true seer with genuine magical foresight. She knows Aemond burned King Aegon on purpose during the battle at Rook's Rest. She prophesies his eventual death beneath the dark waters of the God's Eye. The book's version of Helaena is absolutely no oracle or magical prophet. The text presents her as just a normal mother, completely destroyed by grief. the show gives her a quiet but absolute supernatural power over her tormentors. Her magical visions replace her historical madness with a deeply chilling mental clarity. Prince Jace's northern embassy is relocated from Winterfell to the Frozen Wall. The famous Pact of Ice and Fire vanishes completely from the diplomatic negotiations. Cregan Stark pledges Greybeards out of honor instead of trading his army for a princess. This simplifies the crucial Northern Alliance significantly for the television viewing audience. It removes the romantic and political maneuvering that define Jace's diplomatic success. We get a scenic view of the ice instead of a complex marriage treaty. Rhaenyra and Mysaria launch a clever food ship Gambit to win over the starving small folk. The resulting riot mobs Alicent and Helaena in the dangerous city streets. These specific events are complete narrative inventions created entirely for the television screen. The book's King's Landing does not erupt until the Shepherd's Risings much later. The show accelerates the city's unrest to give Rhaenyra an early propaganda victory. It proves the common people are already a dangerous weapon, waiting to be wielded. The adaptation shuffles the historical timeline to keep its core characters moving. Larys Strong smuggles King Aegon out of the capital long before the city falls. This early escape removes the Broken King from the political board prematurely. It leaves Prince Aemond ruling an increasingly empty and vulnerable royal castle. Rhaenyra's journey to the Vale is merged with an entirely different wild dragon subplot. She discovers scorched earth and sets out to claim a wild beast for herself. This absorbs narrative space traditionally held by others and changes the Sowing's pacing entirely. The show consolidates its cast to streamline a massive and unwieldy historical roster. Now the lightning round, for the changes that missed the headline cut. The show invents its own climax, sending Ulf on Silverwing to bait Aemond into a three-dragon standoff that forces Vhagar to retreat. It pulls young Oscar Tully forward to make Daemon behead his own man Willem Blackwood as public penance. It turns the Triarchy Alliance into Tywin Lannister mud wrestling a gender-flipped Admiral Shirako Lohar. It detaches Stefan Darkland's fiery death from the Red Sowing and stages it earlier as a failed first attempt. It has the dragon sea smoke hunt and choose Adam reversing the book's rule that riders claim dragons. It has Aegon II and Larys flee King's Landing before the city falls, ahead of the book's timing. It demotes the Battle of the Burning Mill, the book's first real clash, to the off-screen aftermath of a boys' brawl. It keeps Daeron the Green's third dragon rider absent for a second straight season. It hands Hugh Hammer and Ulf White invented backstories to soften the book's opportunistic dragon seeds. And it reimagines Aegon II as a pitiable, attention-starved wreck rather than the book's vicious usurper. Tell me which of these deserved a full chapter, and which big change you think was overrated. The screen trades historical fog for human insecurity. Fire and Blood gives you the cold mechanics of a civil war. The television show exposes the pathetic flaws that start one. You lose the grand myth of the Targaryen dynasty. You gain a clear view of its miserable collapse. These are no longer untouchable gods choosing sides. They are frightened relatives burning their own house. If you want to keep up with our next season-by-season book breakdown, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment below. Which change from Fire and Blood hurt the most, and which one actually improved the story?